Aduko is a small village that slept early and woke up with the sun. When the first cock crowed in the morning, women tied their wrappers, carried baskets on their heads, and headed towards the market. The village was not rich, but it was peaceful. Aduko sat between two rivers. During the rainy season, the land was green and full. During the dry season, dust covered everything. Life was simple. People knew each other's names, their children, their troubles, and their secrets. Every 5 days, there was a big market. That market was the heart of Aduko. On market days, traders came from nearby villages. They sold pepper, onions, palm oil, smoked fish, yams, and tomatoes. The tomato sellers usually sat together, shouting to attract buyers. Fresh tomatoes, red and sweet. Come and buy before they finish. Most of the tomatoes were small and sometimes bruised, especially when it was not tomato season. Everyone understood that. No one complained too much. Mama Binta was one of the tomato sellers. She had sold tomatoes in Aduko market for more than 15 years. Her hands were always stained red. Her voice was loud. She knew almost every customer.
There was also Kemi, a young widow with 2 children. Selling tomatoes was how she fed them. Her tomatoes were not always fine, but people bought because they felt pity for her. Life went on like that, slow and normal. But peace does not always won before it leaves. One dry season morning, when the Harmattan wind was still blowing dust into people's eyes, something strange happened. A woman arrived in Aduko. No one saw where she came from. She was not carrying bags like travelers. She was not tired. She walked straight into the market like someone who had always been there. Her name, she said, was Sade. Sade was not very tall, but she stood straight. Her skin was dark and smooth. Her eyes were calm but deep, like someone hiding many thoughts. She dressed simply but clean. She spread a cloth on the ground and brought out her tomatoes. People stopped walking. The tomatoes were big. They were red. They were smooth. They looked fresh, clean, and healthy. Yet it was not tomato season. Mama Binta frowned. Kemi stared. People whispered, "Where did she get these tomatoes? Are they from the city? They look too good."
Sade smiled. She did not shout. She did not beg. She only arranged her tomatoes carefully, wiped them one by one, and said softly, "Fresh, clean, and healthy tomatoes." Her voice was calm, but people heard it. A woman picked one tomato, pressed it gently, and nodded. Before noon, Sade sold out. The next market day, she came again, and again, and again. Her tomatoes were always the same, big, red, shining. Soon, people stopped going to the old sellers. They went straight to Sade. Mama Binta complained. "This is not fair," she said. "How can one person have fresh tomatoes every time?" Kemi cried one evening. "No one buys from me again," she told her neighbor. When they murmured near Sade, she only smiled and said, "Your tomatoes are not fresh. They are not healthy. They are not clean. That is why people do not buy." Her words were soft, but they cut deep. Still, people kept buying because everyone wanted the best. Because everyone believed fresh food meant good life. After Sade arrived, Aduko market changed. Before, people walked around, greeting one another, pricing goods, laughing and arguing. Now, most people walked straight to one place, the spot where Sade sat. Women woke up earlier on market days so they could reach her first. Her tomatoes finish fast, they said. Men sent their children with baskets and money. "Go and buy from that woman with the fine tomatoes," they instructed. Sade noticed everything. She began to write names. At first, people thought she was just counting, but it was more than that. Every time someone bought tomatoes from her, she gently asked, "What is your name? Where is your house?" Some people found it strange, but they answered. She wrote their names on a small piece of paper and kept it inside her wrapper. "Why are you writing names?" one woman asked. Sade smiled. "So I will remember my good customers," she said. People felt proud. They felt special. Soon, everyone wanted their name on Sade's list. Mama Binta grew angry. She watched her tomatoes rot in the sun.
"This woman has used juju," she said loudly one afternoon. "This is not normal." Sade looked up slowly. Her smile disappeared. She stood up and said calmly, "Mama Binta, your tomatoes are not fresh. They are not healthy. They are not clean. That is why people don't buy." The market became quiet. People avoided Mama Binta's eyes. Shame covered her like dust. From that day, murmuring increased, but no one stopped buying because Sade's tomatoes did something else. They tasted good, very good. People cooked stew with them. The soup looked red and rich. Husbands praised their wives. "This soup is sweet," they said. Children licked their fingers. That night, Aduko slept well. But before the next morning, something happened. A young man named Tunde began to groan in his sleep. His wife shook him. "Tunde, what is wrong?" He held his chest. His body became cold. Before the cock crowed, Tunde was gone. People said it was sudden illness. They buried him quickly. 2 days later, an old woman named Mama Efe fell sick after eating stew made with Sade's tomatoes. She vomited. She cried. Before sunrise, she was also gone. Fear entered slowly. People whispered. But still, they bought, because many who ate the tomatoes did not vanish. Some just lost things. A trader who was expecting a big contract from the city suddenly lost it. A teacher waiting for promotion was rejected without reason. A young man preparing to travel abroad became frustrated and hanged himself. Loss followed loss. Mama Binta stopped selling tomatoes. Kemi's children cried from hunger. But Sade grew richer. She bought better clothes. Her basket became bigger. Her list became longer. Yet, every evening when the market closed, Sade sat alone. She looked at her list and her eyes became dark. By the third market cycle, Aduko was no longer the same village. People still woke up early. They still went to the farms, but laughter reduced. Doors were locked earlier at night. Women whispered instead of shouting in the market. The sudden vanishing could no longer be counted as coincidence. Whenever someone vanished suddenly, people asked one question in low voices. Did they buy tomatoes from Sade? Most times, the answer was yes. But fear is a strange thing. It warns you, yet it pushes you forward. Because Sade's tomatoes still looked better than any other. Because people told themselves, it will not be me. One evening, Kemi came back from the market with empty hands. Her children cried, "Mama, what will we eat?" Kemi stared at them. Her eyes were red. She had watched customers pass her and go to Shaggy, even after all the vanishing. That night, hunger defeated fear. The next market day, Kemi swallowed her pride and went to Sade. "Sister," she said quietly, "sell me tomatoes." Sade looked at her. For the first time, she did not smile. "You?" she asked. Kemi nodded. Sade slowly picked tomatoes and handed them to her. "What is your name?" she asked. "Kemi." "Where do you live?" "Near the old mango tree." She wrote it down. Kemi felt cold. That night, Kemi cooked stew. Her children ate. They slept. Before morning, Kemi began to scream. Her body shook. By sunrise, she was gone. The village cried. Mama Binta tore her wrapper. "This is not food," she shouted. "This is bad luck." People gathered in groups. Some wanted Sade chased away. Some said if we fight her, she will curse us. Others said maybe God is angry with us. No one went to confront Sade. Instead, they watched her. They noticed she never ate her own tomatoes. She never cooked in public. She avoided elders. Her list kept growing. One night, Mama Binta followed her. Sade walked to the edge of the village and stopped near a small shrine, old and broken, covered with weeds. She stood there quietly, whispering words no one could hear. Mama Binta ran. Fear now had a face and a name. After Kemi's vanishing, Aduko was filled with fear. Women no longer sat together in the market. Everyone sat alone. People looked at each other with suspicion. Even greetings became short. "How are you?" "I am fine." That was all. Mama Binta became very bitter. Hunger entered her house. Her tomatoes spoiled every market day. Sometimes she carried them back home and fed them to goats. One afternoon, she stood up in the market and shouted, "Are we goats? Can't we see what is destroying us?" People pretended not to hear. One man answered her quietly, "Mama Binta, keep your voice down. You don't know what that woman carries." Hatred grew, not only towards Sade, but among themselves. People began to blame one another. "You told me to buy from her. You said her tomatoes were safe. You are the one who introduced her to the village." Friendships broke. Families quarreled. One man accused his neighbor of wishing him unalived because he advised him to buy tomatoes from Sade. Another woman slapped her sister during an argument over market gossip. Betrayal entered Aduko. Still, Sade came every market day, calm, clean, untouched. When people murmured near her, she lifted her head and said, "If your life is good, you will eat good food." Her words sounded normal, but they burned hearts. One night, Mama Binta fell sick. She had not eaten Sade's tomatoes, but fear had eaten her mind. She dreamt of red tomatoes turning into blood. She woke up screaming. The elders gathered. "This village is under a problem," one said. "But who will talk?" another asked. No one answered, because fear had tied everyone's mouth, and Sade was watching.
By the time the 5th market day came, Aduko was already bleeding, not with blood, but with fear. Vanishing no longer shocked people. It only confirmed what they already expected. Women gathered and wailed. Men beat their chests. The elders sat on the ground with their heads low. "This is no longer sickness," one elder said with a shaking voice. "This is punishment." But punishment for what? Nobody could answer. Some families stopped buying tomatoes completely. They cooked dry soup. Hunger entered their homes. Others still bought secretly. They hid the tomatoes inside bags. They cooked in silence. Because fear of vanishing was strong, but fear of hunger was stronger. Sade noticed everything. She began to call customers by name before they spoke. "Good morning, Musa. You came early today, Auntie Efe?" People froze when she did that. How does she remember everyone? They asked. Her list had grown thick. That same week, a rich man from the city came to Aduko. He was looking for land to build a factory. The village celebrated. Jobs would come. The elders cooked for him. They used Sade's tomatoes. That night, the man fell sick. By dawn, he was gone. The factory dream vanished with him. That was when Aduko broke. Men cried openly. Women rolled on the ground. Children hid when they saw Sade. Mama Binta stood in the middle of the market and screamed, "We are dying slowly, one by one." Sade stood up calmly. She looked at everyone, and for the first time her voice was cold. "You are eating the fruit of your past." No one understood, but everyone felt it. After the vanishing of the city man, Aduko entered a season of mourning that did not end. It was not only vanishing anymore, it was loss. A young man named Kunle, who had studied hard and waited 3 years for a government job, finally received a message. He danced around the compound. His mother cooked food with joy. She used Sade's tomatoes. That night, Kunle did not vanish, but the next morning a letter came. His job offer was cancelled. No reason. Kunle sat on the ground, staring at nothing. Days passed. He stopped bathing. He stopped eating. One evening, they found him lifeless behind the house. Another future lost. A woman who saved money for years to open a shop lost her capital when her partner ran away. A man waiting to marry lost his bride when she suddenly became mad and ran into the bush. Every bad thing now carried one question. Did they eat the tomatoes? Most times, yes. People started pointing fingers. "You sold me tomatoes. You forced me to buy. You brought her here." Hatred grew thick like smoke. Some blamed Mama Binta for talking too much. Some blamed the elders for keeping quiet. Some blamed God. But Sade remained untouched. She walked through the market like nothing was happening. One day, Mama Binta confronted her. "Why us?" she cried. "What did we do to you?" Sade looked at her for a long time. Then she said softly, "You don't remember." Mama Binta felt cold. That night, the elders sent for help. They decided to invite a pastor from far away, someone who did not know Aduko, someone not afraid.
A week after the elders sent the message, a man arrived in Aduko. He walked slowly on the dusty road, carrying only a small leather bag and a Bible. His name was Pastor James, a man from a faraway town, known for preaching with power and truth. When people first saw him, they whispered, "Who is this stranger? Does he know what is happening?" Pastor James went straight to the village square. Children ran to peek. Women stopped their chores. Men laid down their tools to watch. That evening, he began to preach. "People of Aduko," he said, his voice calm but strong, "God sees everything. God knows your hearts. He is calling you to repent. Turn away from sin and fear, and He will save you. Every day he preached. Every evening he prayed. People came from every corner of the village to listen. Some cried, some shouted, some held their heads in shame. Pastor James did not talk only about the deaths. He spoke about forgiveness, truth, and God's justice. Slowly, the villagers began to change. They stopped murmuring in the market. They started helping each other. Some went to the elders to confess past wrongs. But the presence of Sade was still strong. One morning, Pastor James walked into the market. He wanted to buy tomatoes to cook for the children's feeding program. All eyes were on him. He stopped in front of Sade's store. "Good morning, sister," he said gently. Sade looked at him and smiled, but it was different this time. There was a flicker of caution in her eyes. Pastor James raised his hand, holding his Bible. "I will pray," he said, and he began to pray loudly. Not just words anyone could understand. He spoke in tongues. His voice rang through the market. People stopped buying, stopped shouting, stopped moving. Then something strange happened. Sade froze. Her list dropped from her hand. She looked around as if seeing the villagers for the first time. Her smile disappeared. Pastor James continued to pray, louder and louder. And then he spoke. "You, Sade, are not just a stranger. You carry pain from the past, but God's truth will reveal all." The villagers gasped. No one had ever heard such words in Aduko. Sade stepped back. Her eyes widened. She did not shout. She did not run. But a strange tension filled the air. Pastor James kept praying. The wind blew gently across the market. Dust swirled around the tomatoes. It was the beginning of a revelation that would shake Aduko to its very roots. The next morning, Pastor James returned to the market. Sade was there, arranging her tomatoes as usual. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Every name she had written in her list was known to her. Pastor James walked slowly to her store. His Bible was in one hand, his other hand raised in prayer. "Sade," he said calmly but firmly, "God sees all. He knows your pain, your anger, and your purpose. But it is not too late to turn away." Sade looked at him. For the first time, she felt a chill down her spine. "You do not know me," she said softly. "You do not know what I have suffered." "I know enough," Pastor James replied. "I know the wrongs of the past brought you here. I know the pain of your mother, your father, and your child. But vengeance is not the way." The villagers watched silently. Fear held them still. Some had tears in their eyes. Some trembled. Pastor James began to pray loudly. His voice rose in tongues. People fell to their knees, covering their faces. Sade froze. She could not move. The list in her hand shook as if pulled by an invisible force. So, one sunny morning in Aduko, Pastor James walked to Sade's stall again. The villagers followed quietly behind him, curious and fearful. Sade looked at him, calm as ever, her basket full of shiny tomatoes. She smiled softly, but her eyes were alert. Pastor James raised his hands and began to pray. This time, his voice rang through the market in tongues, loud and powerful. People dropped to their knees. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then he spoke clearly. "People of Aduko, you have seen sorrow and death among you. You have felt the loss of jobs, dreams, and health. But you do not yet understand why. This is the story of many years ago." The villagers listened, frozen. Then he revealed to them. Long ago, Pastor James continued, a young woman named Sade was accused falsely of a crime she did not commit. She was banished from her village carrying her little baby, Amara. Her husband, Obina, passed away in the struggle to survive, and she herself fell sick and also passed away. The child, Amara, was left alone in the world, growing up under the guidance of a powerful priestess who promised revenge for the wrongs done to her mother. Gasps filled the market. Sade, standing quietly, did not move. The villagers began to murmur, pointing at her in shock. Amara grew up, trained by the priestess, learning patience, strategy, and control over circumstances, Pastor James continued. She returned to Aduko disguised as Sade, the tomato seller. Her intention was to make you all feel the pain you caused her mother and family. Some villagers collapsed, weeping. Others covered their faces in shame. "Now you know the truth," Pastor James said. This is not mere coincidence. These vanishings, misfortunes, and lost opportunities are the result of a heart long wronged and seeking vengeance. But it is not too late. You can stop this. The villagers looked at each other in horror. Stop it, one woman whispered. But how? Pastor James smiled gently. You must go to where Obina, Sade's husband, was paid to rest. You must ask for forgiveness. You must repent for your ancestors' sins. Only then will the curse be lifted. Only then will peace return. The villagers trembled. They knew what they had to do. Fear mixed with shame and hope. Sade's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Pastor James continued, God sees everything. If your hearts are sincere, if your repentance is true, healing will come. But you must act, and you must act now. A heavy silence fell. The market, once full of life, felt like a grave. Every person understood that their past actions or their ancestors' actions had brought this calamity upon them. And now, their choices would decide if Aduko would survive. The villagers of Aduko gathered at the edge of the village as the sun began to set. The dusty road led them to a small forgotten spot near the old mango tree. It was where Obina had been paid to rest, the husband of the woman who had been wronged years ago. Elders, women, men, and even children approached quietly. They carried small offerings, kola nuts, palm wine, and flowers. Some held their heads low, others wiped away tears. Pastor James stood beside them and spoke gently. Speak from your heart. Ask for forgiveness for the wrongs done to Sade and her family. Confess the sins of the past. Only then will the curse end. Only then will peace end. One by one, villagers stepped forward. Mama Binta, whose tomatoes had once rotted in shame, knelt and whispered, Obina, we are sorry. Forgive us. Forgive our ignorance and cruelty. May peace return. A young man named Musa, whose family had laughed at Sade's mother, placed a kola nut on his head. We ask for your forgiveness. We never knew the truth. May God heal what we have broken. Pastor James led them in prayer, speaking loudly, calling for God's mercy and forgiveness. The wind blew gently, moving through the mango trees. Dust swirled around that spot, as if the earth itself was listening. As the villagers finished, a strange calm filled the air. The fear that had gripped Aduko for months began to lift. Sade's hands, once tight around her waist, relaxed. The basket of tomatoes she had carried rolled slightly to the side, untouched. She felt a strange warmth, a release. The priestess, invisible but ever-present, tried to intervene, but Pastor James's prayers held her back. Sade felt herself trembling. Tears streamed down her face. She realized that the ender she had carried for years had finally found closure, not through more suffering, but through forgiveness. And the villagers turned to her, eyes wide with fear and hope. Can it be over? Someone asked. Pastor James smiled. Yes, he said. When hearts are sincere, peace returns. Today, Aduko is free. Sade dropped to her knees, overwhelmed with emotions she had buried for decades. The anger, the sorrow, the loneliness, all melted away, leaving only the girl who had once suffered, now finally at peace. And for the first time, Aduko felt a lightness it had not known for years. The curse, the fear, the hatred, all lifted.